I want to know who has been to the Golden Gate Bridge, or who has seen it, or who is familiar with it in San Francisco. All right, almost everyone here. The Golden Gate Bridge is the #1 destination, desired area to commit suicide. Wow. It is #2 in the world. Mount Fuji is #1. Now, in 2006, there was a filmmaker who did a movie called The Bridge. It's a documentary, and what he did was record during daylight hours the Golden Gate Bridge where people can walk. So he was able to see people who went on the bridge, stood on the edge, went back day after day, and then jumped. He recorded 22 jumps from the Golden Gate Bridge in 2006. I checked last week, and there are now 48 a year suicides from the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, the solution, of course, to suicide is to counteract the pain and give people coping skills. But of course, it's not that easy. We have all these people walking around in our midst daily, invisible to us, who are suffering and many times thinking about suicide. It's become fashionable in certain areas. You'll see a rash of suicides when one person commits suicide. The next teenager that was in the same class will do it, and then the next one. It's kind of suicide among teens in some ways has become kind of fashionable. You think about that in terms of younger people committing suicide. They don't have the coping skills that adults have. However, the age group where the most suicides occur is still not teens, but middle-aged people, 45 years and up, and there's a very high suicide rate of 85 and above. I have written a suicide note, and what the suicide note says is that if I commit suicide, that it's because there is no palliative care that can take care of me any longer, that I cannot be treated for the illness that I have, thinking mostly of old age, and that I will commit suicide rather than have to live through that, which would put me in that category of 45 and above of people who commit suicide because they have terminal illnesses and they just don't want to live through the Alzheimer's or the dementia or whatever that they have. And I say that I've sent out 3 letters saying that I'm committing suicide that will be received in the mail, and that I did this by my own hand. So I have this suicide letter in my paperwork about dying, so I can use it. It's politically incorrect to say what I'm getting ready to say about suicide, but I often think that if people are suffering and in pain and they don't want to be here, that maybe we should let them go. Because why should they stay, and why do we have the attitude that they need to stay for us, that it'd make us feel better if they stayed and didn't commit suicide? So when people commit suicide, I think about not being able to be with them or see them or do the things I did with them, but I also have a sense that if they were in that much pain, certainly as an adult, not so much if they're young, because they don't have full cognitive skills at that point. But I have other friends as adults who have committed suicide. They've organized it, they've planned it, they've left a note. I just think sometimes I have to let them do and be who they were and who they wanted to be and how they wanted to do their life. I no longer judge suicide like I used to, because I think if I stood in those shoes, I might have done the same thing. I'll never know. But since I don't stand in those shoes, I have to trust their judgment and their choice. So the question today is, why are so many people called to commit suicide?